Good evening, everybody. Time being 6:30, the date April 17th. This is the Master Plan Committee update meeting tonight. Meeting's going to be held in the municipal building, not the town council chambers, but we're in the third floor training room at 355 East Central Street. Note to residents, all citizens are welcome to attend public board and committee meetings in person. The meetings will also be live streamed by Franklin TV. Recordings of meetings are available on Franklin TV's Town Hall TV YouTube channel. That's a tongue twister. And additionally, in an effort to maximize citizen engagement opportunities, citizens will be able to continue to participate remotely via phone or Zoom. Links to access tonight's meeting can be found on the agenda, or you can call in the phone number at 1-929-205-6099. That again is 1-929-205-6099, and enter meeting ID 845-011-34237, and then press pound. That again, the meeting ID is 845-011-34237, and then press pound. The first thing on our agenda for tonight is to approve meeting minutes for February 14th, 2024, and for March 6th, 2024. I'll take a motion.
Motion to approve the minute meetings for February 14th. You want to do them at the same time?
Sure.
February 14th, 2024, and March 6th of 2024.
Second.
Roll call.
Well, there's nobody on.
No,
Nobody's
nobody's
online.
online. No.
There's no online, you don't need
Yeah.
roll call.
So all in favor?
Oh, yeah.
Aye.
All in
Aye.
favor, say aye.
Opposed?
No. Anybody opposed?
No.
Nope.
Abstain?
No abstentions. Good. Not up to debate. So, excellent job, everybody. So, the next thing on our agenda is subcommittee updates. Ken, I'll go to you first for housing. How's it?
We have got to get our new schedule together, but looking forward to going through all of the wonderful things in the key issues and opportunities report, and as well from the interactive boards during the open house. It gives us a lot of great information to start formulating our goals, which I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit more about.
We are. Excellent. All right. Meg, open space, recreation, natural, cultural, historical resources.
I am going to just echo, as Ken had said, with what we're excited to talk about going forward. We have our next meeting planned for this coming Monday, 5:30 p.m.
Excellent.
For
Gino,
reschedules.
sustainability.
Yeah, we a couple of weeks ago, we met with Mike D'Angelo, had a great meeting with him, and we actually met again last night and reviewed our conversation with Mike, as well as made a ton of progress on our goals and objectives. And we have another meeting scheduled for April 30th,
April 30th.
and we will be meeting with Brika Lai at that point.
And hopefully Derek. Hopefully Derek Adams
Cool.
at the same time.
Thank you, Gino. Unfortunately, Councilor Frangillo is currently not here. He's neither online nor in the room, so, hold on a second. I just
There's a
got a
hand
message.
being raised, Clint.
Yep, it says running late, but he'll be there in a minute. Hold on one second, Emily, I'll get right to
No
you.
problem.
So Kobe will be here. So I'm at Janelle, unfortunately won't be able to make it tonight. She's unfortunately going to be absent for tonight's meeting. But Jen, do you have any feedback from the Land Use and Zoning Subcommittee?
Sure, we met 2 weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
and reviewed the results of the open house and identified themes that we heard at our own table and potential or a lot of overlapping themes with other subcommittees. We have our next meeting scheduled for Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, and at that meeting we're doing our own internal subcommittee exercise where we're all taking a blank map of Franklin and zoning it to what we just think, sort of no preconceived notions it should be, and then have a discussion about sort of the reasons why each person has those particular thoughts and see if there's, where there's alignment or maybe misalignment between the thoughts amongst subcommittee members, which would then be sort of a jumping off point to start to fill in our own goals and sort of zoning matrix. And you know, we continue to bring up within our subcommittee the fact that there are a lot of loaded topics that really require a broader discussion amongst this group. A lot of overlapping areas of subject areas, as you could imagine, everything from parking to economic development and circulation and land use, right? It's all tied to all of the subcommittees and really could use some productive discussion at these meetings moving forward.
Okay.
So that's an update. Gino, I don't know if you have anything to add or.
Nope, that covered it pretty well.
Thank you, Jen. I appreciate the update on behalf of Janelle and the Land Use and Zoning Subcommittee. Kobe Counselor Frangillo just walked in. Community Services, Facilities and Circulation.
We have not met since our last meeting. Looking forward to really starting to put our goals together.
Perfect. Do you plan on having a meeting? Soon?
Yeah, I mean, we're typically before every meeting. I was delayed this time, but whenever our next meeting is, we'll plan to meet before it.
Perfect. And just so everyone knows, as far as the dates are concerned, Amy and I were just discussing the schedule. Today being April 17th, this was originally meant to be April 10th, but it got moved up due to other scheduling issues. We do tentatively have on the schedule for May 8th, but I believe we're actually going to change that date. It's written down here as the public hearing, correct, Amy?
Mm-hmm.
And we're hoping to have it maybe on a Saturday. Amy's going to look at the dates because there's a lot of Wednesdays booked up coming up.
So yeah,
Go ahead,
just, I think that, so May 1st is now a town council meeting.
Right.
May 8th is a FinCom. We can technically hold a meeting like we are tonight. It's a recommendation for FinCom if we wanted to, not a public. I wouldn't recommend doing our public hearing, but it would be to gather information for the public hearing, as well as May 15th is another FinCom recommendation meeting. So that's not ideal. That was going to be our public hearing, and it's just not going to be a good night for our public hearing, given that's a school. And then town council has the 23rd and 24th. So I'm going to look into some Saturday dates. I already have gotten a no on May 18th. So if there's any other no's on Saturdays in May?
I'm just gonna throw out that spring sports have kicked off, and
Oh,
for,
right.
like, for me, I know for Erin and Jen, and
Yeah.
anyone with young kids, it's gonna be an off-limits day for them. I don't know if we maybe wanna look at if we can do a Sunday, maybe that's gonna be an easier day for people, or maybe a weeknight instead that doesn't overlap with some of these, but, I mean, my husband's gone for the majority of May, so I'm on duty for 2 kids with 2 sports each on Saturdays, so,
Duty.
yeah,
So,
it's good times.
okay.
Seems like a great idea.
I know.
And I know a lot of other
Yes.
parents are just in the same boat with that, so I think we're gonna be, if we do it on a Saturday, excluding a lot of people that would potentially be good to receive.
And I know
input
that it does sound like the subcommittees have a lot of work to kind of have a bunch of meetings coming up as well, to put together the goals. I'm not one to push any of this stuff out. I don't want to say May 30th is that last Wednesday that there are no meetings that night. If we can't do Saturdays, because I'm not really sure.
How do Thursdays work?
Thursdays, if we did, you typically have conservation every other Thursday, and then you have ZBA. ZBA is online. We could do a Thursday if people are available.
What about alternate Mondays to planning board?
We could do that too if people are available.
Yeah, Mondays might work for me. I don't tend to have much planned on Monday nights.
Would Mondays be good?
I think
Because
so.
typically, actually, the town council chambers are typically available on Mondays. The planning board seems to be the only one that does the Monday nights.
I
just
know-
ask,
oh,
oh,
go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
Meg?
What's the format of this next?
It's just gonna be a general public hearing, kinda
Okay.
like. the
We're supposed to
the
be
boring-
presenting some of the draft goals and
Yeah,
objectives.
the boring presentation stuff. that the
Okay.
public
So
hates
it's
so
kinda
much, but-
when everyone thinks that they're gonna be ready. I can tell you, let's see. It will not be the 6th or the 20th, so,
I mean, if this is gonna be a public hearing on the goals, it sounds like groups aren't ready to present their goals. I'm not offended by a May 30th.
sorry, that'd be, actually, I was wrong, May 29th, but yes. I said 30th, but yeah.
29th would work.
Just be ready, don't,
Yeah,
So
one-
don't go
that gives
slow.
that gives us all a deadline
Yes.
to be ready.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I think that's a great idea, Kobe. If we meet on the 8th, and then we add a meeting on Monday, the 27th, right before the public
We,
hearing,
we
to
do
plan
need some
for it.
time,
We
basically,
need a
like
little bit of
Jen-
time to plan for it, so we can throw in one more meeting before the 29th. Let me get back on
That Monday's Memorial
Twenty,
Day.
yeah, the 27th is Memorial Day.
oh, okay, that's why we aren't meeting that day. If we could throw a Thursday in,
Alright, so the 8th,
Yeah, why don't we do that?
the 8th, and then
we had
the
a couple,
23rd is a Thursday?
you have a town
The
council.
8th.
Oh, we have the 22nd and
So
the
the
23rd, right?
and there's
Wanna
ZBA
try the
that night.
9th, maybe?
I would say the 16th.
Okay.
If we do the 8th and the 16th to prepare for the 29th. Does that make sense to
Yeah, because we
everybody?
really do, like Jen said, get whatever Q and As between the, different subcommittees
Mhm.
kind of brought to the main body so that we can get these answers that they're looking for.
Alright, can we do that the 8th, and then the 16th we get ready,
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, we're proposing 3 meetings in May?
Well, 2 meetings
No,
and a
2.
public hearing, yeah,
We're keeping the 8th.
yes.
I mean, I don't wanna,
Hmm?
it's tough with so many meetings. I mean, unless you're looking at the first weekend in first week of June.
Yeah, but then we're pushing things out, and we don't wanna push things any further than we need to. I know it's a busy
Mhm.
month, especially with the FinCom meetings and the budget hearings and a lot going on, but, there are a few things that we need to iron out, because once, once June comes and the summer months come, it's almost like everyone's gonna scatter in different directions, and we have a lot of things that we need to get organized in regards to the implementation process of this whole master plan.
I heard 8, 16, 29,
8,
29
16.
being the hearing.
29 being the
Yes.
hearing.
Yeah. Sixteen at 6:30.
Yeah, same time?
Yeah, yeah. same
Okay.
time.
Okay. Perfect.
So through,
Yep.
Mr. Chairman,
Go
just
ahead,
to clarify, are we trying to come to consensus as a group as to what our draft goals and objectives are prior to the public hearing? Or are we presenting our subcommittee's draft goals at the public hearing for the first time?
I
'Cause
would
there's a
say-
major difference in between those two.
I would say you're going to be presenting your draft goals at that meeting,
Your subcommittees.
yes.
So we'll be hearing the other subcommittees in theory for the first time.
Yeah, with, in lieu of any questions and Q and As that come out of our prior meetings, yes.
Okay.
Because we'll be able to hash out any kind of cross, platform type questions that we have at the 8th and the 16th meetings. You'll hear in general what those goals and objectives are then, but the public will be getting an overview of them on the 29th, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure we don't skip over the time for us to hash out as a larger committee.
Yes.
I think that would be the 8th,
Which we would on the 8th.
okay?
Fair, start to get, be close by the 8th, like get things together. I'm just worried that, I don't know, are all groups gonna be ready to have their first draft of goals by the 8th?
Well, they don't necessarily need
Maybe.
everything together on the 8th.
Yeah, I
They
guess so.
just need to address whatever questions they may have on the 8th, and then they can continue to compile their goals and objectives once they get their questions answered. And then
Okay.
hopefully have them done by the 29th.
Yeah, I think it's for input
Right.
from other groups.
Right. And
So like
that's-
land use and zoning wants to talk to the other
Right.
committees,
Cool.
right?
Mhm.
Correct. I'm just a little concerned that 2 meetings isn't enough because 1 meeting
Okay.
alone is the
Will
first
be one.
discussion of parking and it's gonna,
Right.
come up 3 more times. I guess that's
Yeah.
my concern, is just trying to be realistic
Yep.
about being able to get to a meaningful, first series of draft goals in which this group feels that as a team has helped sort of author
Mhm.
together. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
We will have a meeting or two after that last public hearing, because that's just going to be goals and objectives from the various subcommittees that they've ultimately compiled. And then once we've done that, we'll have a whole master plan committee meeting to basically bring all those parts together and then finally come up with any other further pending questions we might have that were brought up either from the public hearing or from the larger body come June.
I think Bruce is online now.
Yeah,
again?
Bruce is online.
Yeah.
He's talking to somebody that I'm
Okay.
talking to. Emily, I'm sorry, you had your hand up earlier? My apologies.
No, that's all right. It was just to let Jeff in, but you already did that, so you're all set.
Oh, okay. Let him in.
Thank you.
All right. So does anybody have any further questions about meeting dates and goals on those dates, 8th, 16th, and the 29th for the public hearing?
The only question I have is about getting those draft goals out in advance to the public so that they have time to review them, and what the plan is to solicit that information outside of the 72 hours in advance on the agenda information, if there's anything else that the group thinks should be done in order to get that information out.
I think, Amy, you would agree, we'd probably want to have whatever goals and objectives that each subcommittee wants to present on the 29th, prior, because we have to have an agenda 3 days prior. So maybe we could have those goals and objectives 3 days prior to the public. So
Yeah.
I know that kind of
Yeah,
shortens
I
our
think,
schedule.
Ms.
Hold on,
no,
Colby.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Amy.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I think that, the 8th is going to be the conversation about what all the draft goals have come up with, and the 16th is where we're going to need to narrow it down.
Right.
And that, then we collate them to post them prior to the public hearing to review.
Yeah, I would encourage, to the extent that we can, get them out even earlier than 3 days in advance to give the public, say, a
Mhm.
week to review them. If there's nothing happening after the 16th to them, that'd be great to give the public more time to review.
Okay. We can continue to discuss this as we move forward to the next couple of meetings to see if those are goals that we're actually going to be able to achieve prior to the 29th in the first place. So, sorry, go ahead.
Just starting to think that if we aren't gonna be able to get the goals and objectives out in advance,
Mhm.
the very idea of it being a public hearing on the draft master plan
Mhm.
is enough to alert people and get out into the world. So I imagine that a graphic of like draft master plan, first public hearing, this date could go out whenever, next week, and saying, hey, take, this is coming, if you care about it.
Yeah.
So I thought,
Makes sense. Meg?
Can I just ask, going back to what we had looked at as our original timeline, so it looked like we had set our second public hearing actually for July 2024, where we'd actually already set up our implementation plan. Are we having another public hearing where we have our implementation plan complete, and then we're presenting that as well. I'm on the drive, so that may not be what I have. It's also in front of me, I didn't look at that, I pulled it up on the drive, so.
That's
May, right? First public hearing?
Yeah,
So
I
if
see
you look
that.
at the second public hearing, we've already done our first public hearing, and then it says implementation plan revisions. And second public hearing brings us out to July.
Yeah,
So should we
it
take our
sounds like
time to
we're-
get these goals and objectives and our implementation plans done and then schedule
Well,
out that
no,
second
we're,
public hearing?
we're not going to be able to progress even to the implementation draft until we've completed the goals and objectives.
Correct. But are we gonna be doing all of that? So if we complete our goals and objectives, have the public hearing.
Yep.
Then we create our implementation plan. Are we presenting that to the public? Are we having a third public hearing? Or are we just doing the implementation plan after the second public hearing
would
and
say
then going to the town council with it?
I would say we're doing the implementation plan after the public hearing and then going to the council.
Okay.
Yes.
It's,
Go ahead, Phil.
I'm seeing the implementation plan happen before the second public hearing. So we
That's
do
what I'm- yeah.
goals and objectives, public
Mhm.
hearing. I mean, really, we're trying to get goals and objectives and implementation plan before the first public hearing. Sounds like that's not a feasible goal at this point.
Mm.
So if we can have the first public hearing, be presenting on the goals and objectives, and then we have until July to change our goals and objectives accordingly, as well as add the implementation plan and present that to the public in July.
Well,
So we're having
that's-
two more public hearings.
That's what it looks like.
I think 2 total.
Mm-hmm.
And
Did our
excuse me,
first
through
one
the
not
chair,
count as a public
Go
hearing?
ahead, Jill.
through
I
the
think
chair, if I may
different wording,
say,
Okay.
so it sounds like you guys have your heads around the process, I think, very well. One thing to keep in mind is for the implementation plan, one step in there that's really helpful and critical before it would be going to the public is to air that those actions with the timeframes, with the responsibilities,
Right.
with the resources listed, air that all out through the departments in town, because oftentimes they're the ones that will be listed as the lead responsible party. So once departments, DPW and so forth, gets their eyes on it and gives their sort of input as to how it would actually, get accomplished, that's really helpful. And then by the time it gets to the public, there's not too much. I feel like between the committee and the department heads in town, the implementation plan should be in pretty great shape, when the public sees it. Not that they might not have, a comment or a curiosity, but just taking that time to have the different departments get their eyes on it is kind of a critical step.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Since they're the ones that's got to be implementing them. Kobe?
Joe, I was just wondering how you see those public hearings go, and just for clarity, we're calling this the first public hearing, as in the previous thing was an open house or something, just so we're
Right.
all on the same
We had a
page.
public
We have
hearing
not had
before.
had a public hearing yet.
We did,
on the
and
master
town
plan.
council too.
Yeah, we had our first public
We
hearing.
had our first public hearing, and then
For
the
the
thing.
for the sake of
the
my
team.
comments right
Okay.
now, the first public hearing on the draft master plan is happening in May, which I believe aligns with what's saying here. And then at those public hearings, do you anticipate that being a work through? Like, are we responding and adding and amending, or is it really just present, solicit feedback, and we have to meet separately in between those?
That's a good question. Jeff Maxudis is on also. So Jeff, if you have anything to add, you can. I'd see the meeting on the May 29th being a presentation of the draft goals
Right.
and objectives that the committee has come up with per the subcommittees. How that then gets refined, I guess, is something that we, need to think about, in terms of listening to the public comment, tweaking it. At that point, will we have too many goals and want to reduce it down, in terms of the overlap? So I don't know, I guess, until we see what we have, but Jeff, do you have any insight on that?
No, I agree with what you're saying. I think of presenting the goals by element and getting feedback The only thing I'll add to it is we want to recognize if there are any overarching goals, that connect several of or one or more of the elements together. So that can be put together after, but it's just good keep in mind some of the larger type goals will involve several elements, broken up to different elemental categories. So, but really it's presenting the first draft of what we think the goals and actions are to the public and get their feedback.
Yep, I agree.
No, I just, maybe we could talk offline, just making sure that May 8th and 16th, to Jen's point, are productive and we're prepared for possibly longer meetings. And have some game plan about the way that we're gonna work through each subcommittees and flag key questions to bring to the group.
Yep.
Versus which ones we're just gonna try to move forward quicker.
That makes sense. That's ultimately what the 16th is going to be have our opportunity to do on those 2 dates, is to hash those out and get any cross questions from the subcommittees that we may have answered, and of course identify anything that might be redundant, because there could be goals on any one specific subcommittee that are similar or almost in a sense the same, that we could either tweak or rearrange to meet accordingly, or keep. Depends on what they are. Gina?
Similar to Eric's comment, I think it would be useful for the subcommittees to share their draft goals ahead of the May 8th meeting, so we all have time to review them and figure out where.
No, that's a fair thing.
Would it be, through the chair, would it be helpful to, on the drive,
That's a good, thank you.
just do a folder of, but only keep that one file for each subcommittee?
Right.
Each subcommittee puts in their draft, and they can still update it, but we can create a folder on the drive for goals and objectives.
Yes.
Per subcommittee.
Please do.
Could I recommend that be in the Google spreadsheet form that the whatever previous examples were in, just so we're all using the same format?
Yep, and
Yeah,
Excel.
the spreadsheets work
Excel.
best.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Google spreadsheets.
And lastly, once they're populated in there, if there can be some sort of communication out to the group to inform us that the goals and objectives are in there,
Yes.
that'd be helpful, as opposed
Absolutely.
to proactively going into the folders for
Yep.
each of us.
And Megan, I believe you actually been keeping for open space, recreation, historical resources, a live spreadsheet. Is that something that could be expanded out for other people to add to that spreadsheet? So I could maybe put that spreadsheet on Google Drive and then add, say, other tabs to it for the other subcommittees, because right now you've got open space, recreation, historical recreation, and then maybe put tab 2, housing and economic development, tab 3 could be sustainability, tab 4, and then kind of keep that a live working document. 'Cause
I
know
can
you've got
reformat
that.
things, yeah.
Because she already has a working Google spreadsheet for open
Okay,
space, recreation,
so I just need to create the
historical.
folder.
Yeah. And since Meg's done such a great job with organizing these things, if everybody could, for all intents and purposes, kind of facsimile what she's created already, and just kind of take the goals and objectives from each subcommittee and format them in the same fashion. That would just make it more convenient, and it would make it in one general location on the drive that everybody could access, and then the planning department and Bader and Barrett can actually take that information and compile it as necessary. So, go ahead.
If we could just put that in an email, that would be helpful, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and yes, Eric, we'll definitely send out an email in regards to that too, so.
Thank you.
Nope, you're welcome. It's all about communication. And before I forget, I just want to thank everybody and the public for what was a wonderfully successful March 23rd open house at Dean College. I especially want to thank Ken O'More, president of Dean, for allowing us the opportunity to utilize that space, even though I have to admit I was a little jealous. I didn't have ice cream to pass out to the public as they were coming through the event. But despite the rain, despite, what was kind of a cold and rainy day. It was still a wonderful turnout, probably far better than I had ever expected it to be on a day like that. But it's really everyone's hard work that went into making this happen, and I'm very proud of the input that we got from the public. It was a wonderful day, and I had a lot of fun. Jill, you had something you wanted to comment on?
Yes, please. Thank you. I was just thinking through the process of the upcoming steps, and I know different subcommittees said they're meeting in the near future. So for part of the master plan, we do want to make sure we populate the open house information that was received. I think there's a shared document that we started to kind of just, put in bullet points, whatever of information received on your boards. And the hope is that and the key issues will help further inform, what you're thinking of for goals and objectives. Yes. And then what a lot of times people do as they're doing goals and objectives, oftentimes we want to get to more the nitty gritty, and those are the actions. And it's a great idea to, maybe you've already done this, is to have a running list of actions that come up that are maybe more specific than an overarching goal or even a broader policy or objective. Keep a running list of those actions, and then you'll kind of have that ready to go for that next step of the action plan or the implementation plan. So that's kind of how it all comes together. But the hope is that you review the key issues document, see if anything's missing, what kind of came out of that, summarize the notes from the open house, and then do the goals and objectives. But the goals and objectives, for May here, the real is the real aim, right, is to make sure we have those by the end.
Excellent. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
Very insightful. Okay. And also, by the way, it's just kind of something that was sitting on my list of things that still I know Bader and Barrett would like to see, is if everyone has an opportunity, and I'm throwing this out to everyone in the master plan as well as the community abroad, we're still looking for photographs. I believe, Jill, we haven't quite satisfied that need yet. Storefronts, people parking on the walking on sidewalks, people biking, train station, parking areas, various types of housing, people enjoying the open spaces. Now that it's nice outside, we could probably get some great photographs, and the commons have looked spectacular this week. Wildlife, any photos people have of the community. Farm stand, Harvest Fest, and Touch a Truck, which I know was last year. So, and now we have the Strawberry Stroll coming up. So any photographs that anybody has that they'd like to share, shoot them over to Amy, and we can populate those on the drive for us to incorporate into the master plan. So, all right. Before I move on from timeline and reviews, does anyone have any further questions, comments on what our next steps are and what the expectations are for the rest of the month, as well as moving into May? One of the things that I would like to request of the chairs of each subcommittee, if you can, I know it's a busy month here at the end of April as well as going into May, is to expedite the goals and objectives so that we can finally discuss these coming on the May 8th meeting. So we can start moving along. Just by way of explanation, I know we talked about this all the way at the beginning. As part of the implementation portion of this project, once we have finalized goals and objectives that we've worked so diligently on for the past few months, and we start looking at the big picture for implementation, one of the things that we need to look at as part of the implementation process, and Jill, correct me if I'm wrong, is feasibility, meaning we have to really kind of look at these goals and objectives and say, are they something that can be accomplished? Will they require large amounts of funding? Because that's one of the things that's really going to be crossing our plate over the next few weeks at the town council level. Is it's nice to have goals, it's nice to have objectives, but if we look at them from the 30,000 foot view, are these goals achievable in the next 10 years, and would there be a funding mechanism necessary to actually make these goals come to fruition? So that's also part of the implementation process that we need to think about, and then maybe come up with a funding source if possible, depending on what the goals are. Kobe?
I think we'll get to implementation more,
We
so we'll
will.
have some other times to talk about it.
I just wanted to throw it out. so-
Yeah, my only thought was that to err on the side of like leniency, of like let the departments tell us to some extent. I mean, obviously be reasonable, like we're not gonna like build an apartment or build a airport in our downtown. But, you know, if you're unsure, put it in there, I would think, at this point.
I agree. I'd hate to leave something out, but it's definitely something we still need to think about
Yeah.
for the next 10 years. I think it's just fiscally prudent to at least look at it from a budgetary perspective. Any other, Ken?
So I wonder if, I mean, that's very real that we've got to think about the dollars and cents of this.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's somewhat useful for us to think about this from the standpoint of strategic pathways as opposed to specific items, but to really say, here are these big, first off, I think we need to have one big goal for the whole thing, but maybe if we thought more about strategic pathways, that's gonna be something that works a little bit better. It's conceptual, I know, but it at least gets everybody in the same sort of orbit around these kinds of things, given that dollars will come and go in the next 10 years. And so, but to say, look, it's something different than a goal. I'm not quite sure I can put my finger on it, but it just gives us a conceptual way to go about getting to that big goal.
Understood.
A thriving Franklin, whatever it might be, Franklin meets the future, I don't know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, excuse me, Glenn?
Yes.
If I may?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, President Elmore onto something there. I think the goals is, we kind of think of goals can be aspirational, you know, overarching aspirational. The whatever you decide to call them, objectives, sometimes we call them policies, sometimes we call them strategies, because then that gets the mindset, or that next tier is, so there might be goal 1, and it may have 3 policies or 3 strategies. And those strategies or policies or objectives are what the governing bodies in town will use to kind of give them the footing and guide them to then implement the actions that are down below. And it's those actions that are then going to have an estimate of like dollar signs, resources, near term or long term, or, you know, immediate, near term, longer term
Right.
implementation timeframes. So that's kind of like, you know, the triage of how it goes. So I think our goal for the month of May is the goals, and then some objectives, strategies, policies. Having, you know, those are all the same sort of word for what we're getting at. You know, it could, I said 3, 3's kind of small. Some have 3, some have maybe 8 policies, you know, or objectives below them, depending on what your subject matter is. So, and those aren't specifically tied to money, you know, the goals or the objective strategy. It's those actions that we'll get to thereafter that, you know, are tied to resources.
Right. Thanks, Jill.
Sure.
All right.
Chair,
Yes.
silly question.
No question. No such thing.
And again, this is mindset. Must it be called a master plan? You know, that's something we've been calling these things for years, and it's kind of tired. I mean, is it a legal thing? You know,
It's just how it's drafted in the Mass law.
so it is a legal thing.
Yeah.
Boring Massachusetts, land of the
Yeah,
Puritans and
it's-
the Pilgrims.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
It just seems like a really old world, nonsensical kind of thing. If you want innovation and you want to think about the future.
Yeah, it's almost like
Calling something a master plan in 2024?
It's almost more like a community plan.
Yeah, well,
More than-
can we call it that?
Well, it's-
With a little asterisk that says, this is actually the
Master
legal
plan.
master plan that we must, you know, state here.
We can go the other way and just put it on like really old scroll paper.
Right, but,
This is what
Calligraphy.
I want.
right, I got good penmanship.
It could be the Franklin Scrolls.
I would better read it.
Just for thinking purposes, I just think that if we even got out of calling it a master plan, it makes us think a little bit better about strategy and planning and pathways and goals and everything else a little bit better. Master plan is boring. It's Puritan stuff.
Excuse me, it's Jill again,
Hi, Jill.
Chair,
Yes.
if I may.
Go ahead.
maybe we lean on the logo or the tagline a little more too, of help us form Franklin's future.
Mhm.
You know, that kind of also sends that nice, you know, the nice message of what the goal is.
Right. Yes. I certainly have no problems moving more towards our slogan and a little more away from master plan. I do agree that is a little kind of archaic. But we'll get there one step at a time. Joe, you showed up. Did you have any comments, questions? We had just discussed dates, by the way, Mr. Halligan. We had discussed May 16th and May 29th
I'm okay with
for
that.
meetings, okay?
I get a boring life. It's my
So
night out.
agreeable
It's my night out.
You're the only one who got a shout out. Joe showed up. Let's go.
All right. Rick, anything further? Eric? Nick? Ken? I'll go over to Jen. Jen, anything further?
For the meeting tonight as
Yes.
a whole, I would like us to maybe talk about topics that we're all initially interested in, overlap conversations. I just don't see it necessarily being achieved by email, but actually if we can set up some of these topics in these upcoming agendas for
Yes.
the 8th and the whatever date, 16th, I think is gonna be the most productive.
Yep.
Rather than this sort of just strictly being administrative, I'd love to open it up for discussion about what we think those topics should be as a priority. for
Absolutely,
discussion.
and that's really what our ultimate goals are for March, which is why I'm asking, I'm sorry, May. Getting my months mixed up over here. For May, I had March stuck in my brain for so long. For May, my hope is reaching out to everybody, especially the chairs of all the subcommittees, so that everybody can be present in order to answer any questions that may still be pending. Go ahead.
But does that preclude us from talking about it tonight?
No. In
Not
fact,
not the actual issues, but like what we all think maybe some of the topics should be.
I mean, I can add it to the agenda, but I'd have to basically get the collective body to agree to discuss this. Everyone okay with going on to discussing a new agenda item?
Which is
I mean,
overlap
it's up
of
to-
subcommittee ideas, or
It's-
potential overlap.
Right, potential for, yes, topics we think are worth discussing at upcoming meetings as a group.
Well, the agenda's always open to adding as we go through the active agenda. I can always add something onto it so long as I have the general consensus of the committee as a whole. So I'll just throw it around.
I second the motion
To
to
the
add
Thank
you.
an agenda item
I've been here all night,
To-
but I'll stick around.
to discuss.
Yes, let's do it.
To
To
discuss-
flag potential overlap of your subcommittees in this meeting.
All right, anybody want to
Second.
Okay.
Okay, let me do a roll call
Yep,
vote.
since we get,
Bruce,
No.
Meg,
Yes.
Gino,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Hamblin, yes, front, clerk, what are you, you're the
Yeah.
vice chair?
Yeah.
Yes, chair,
What
yes.
meeting is this?
Yes.
yes.
One no and,
Just for the record, we have a fourth agenda item on tonight's agenda.
10 yes, 1 no.
I heard parking.
Yes.
Go ahead. You can start off, Jen.
And
Yeah, I mean, Jen
I
has
would
a list, right?
invite, fellow subcommittee members to weigh in on the conversation. I know some of us couldn't be here tonight, but just some of the topics that we've talked about in our subcommittee meeting of like, wow, we really need to talk to Concom about that, or, you know, economic development. So density and affordable housing.
Talk about more
don't
C1 zoning,
Yep.
that would allow the mixed-use housing.
Yeah, generally, we have thoughts on zoning districts, which are how some of these topics then overlap, right?
Mhm.
Parking, for sure. Preservation, so, related to land use, like, are there particular parts of town that, different subcommittees have talked about preservation and additional recreation amenities, connections to different areas of town, so circulation, sort of everything, is coming back to land use in zoning. Traffic is a big part of, you know, sort of impact of density and all these things on traffic, which is circulation. Gino, Joe, others, I know Erin can't be, I think she's on vacation, and
Yeah.
Janelle's on vacation, so, to add to some of those themes that we wanted to talk to the broader group about, off the top of your head?
I got a question for Amy, regarding the parking part of it. I thought I read something just recently, that the economic development, you're gonna start talking about easing on parking in the downtown stuff. Is that something I read that's coming up in the future?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is, and that is mainly to meet our 3A MBTA requirements, coming down from the state, is to, in order to include and meet our unit count that were required by the state, to provide mixed use in the downtown commercial, you cannot require parking for the commercial use of the building.
Oh, really?
So we are looking at removing, at minimum, the commercial parking, possibly residential or reduced residential.
Now, what about residential? What is it now, 1.5?
1.5
1.5.
per unit.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think, of dropping it down to 1? At a minimum?
EDC recommended to the town council the removal of parking minimums in mixed-use buildings for both residential and non-residential uses.
Oh, zero parking requirements,
So
In the
Correct.
downtown.
The
district.
And the
commercial
downtown
district.
commercial district.
the way it
went-
used to be, the way it used to be.
The way it used to be.
Now, would that
It
be-
went from the EDC voted to send it to the council to then send it to planning
Well,
board. So
it's
it
in
hasn't,
motion now.
so it hasn't, it's in motion now. It has not made it to the town council yet to go to the planning board.
Okay. I wish we had known that during our subcommittee meetings, it would have been a little helpful, but I just read the thing. But that's okay. Now, does that cover C1?
That was
or
last
strictly
Wednesday.
just
I know, that was
downtown?
last week.
That was last week.
It's not, it's
That was
not
last
that old.
Wednesday.
Okay, well, I'll keep up
It
with
was
it.
downtown commercial.
Downtown commercial only.
Only,
Yes,
Okay.
only.
yes.
Which we could talk about at length, or overlapping maybe parking discussion. Sorry, is that it for land use and zoning in terms of our like initial themes? Oh, another thing that came up, which relates to sustainability, is solar fields, solar development, solar farms. What are we calling them these days?
Distributed generation.
Yeah.
Solar farm's good.
Solar farm, yeah.
Solar farms.
And, you know, potential adjustments or bylaws related to limitations of, or deforestation generally, for some of these types of development.
Zone 7, we discussed some of that, some of more dense housing. So there's more open space.
That's Cook's Farm.
Similar to that.
Sorry, I'm just like looking back through my.
Yep.
These were ideas that
Most
we went
recent
over.
meetings.
There was a bunch of
Jen,
ideas
can I
we went over.
can I just add in
Yeah,
something
yeah,
we were
sure,
talking
yeah.
about,
Yeah.
you know, preservation in relation to natural, cultural, historic, but we've also had some things come up about, potential zoning for an actual historic district.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that.
So-
That was it, thank you. That was another one, a historic overlay district.
Yeah.
On the
Mhm.
common.
Around the common in
Right.
particular. Yep, thank you.
Related to density, has there been discussions about form-based codes?
Can,
Form-based codes are codes that towns can implement to preserve the context of the community, and have requirements on the character within the community.
so we've talked about that, that was part of our discussion as well. We worded it differently, but, actually putting more definition to what the character Franklin means in terms of how it's interpreted, so I think that's related. Right now, we don't really have an actual definition, it's just subjective.
It's in the special permit process. though.
It is, yeah,
That anything that's built has to meet the character of the
Right.
existing neighborhood.
but we don't define what character
Yeah.
is related to the different parts of town, which makes it almost impossible to say, no, you can't do that, or yes, you can do that. So, yes, that's something we've discussed, which overlaps, with, so, anything else, just shout it out, because my guess is if you say it, we've talked about it, but that's my point of, let's have these discussions.
Yeah.
So I think this can touch on a lot of different areas too, but a big thing that we've talked about, especially in open space and recreation, is looking at accessibility. And I think there's different parts in everyone's subcommittees where that's gonna be an important thing, going forward.
Mhm.
It is, in accessibility, when we're talking land use, or we're talking recreation, or we're talking, parking, whatever we're talking about. That's an overarching, overlapping topic that's gonna probably end up as one as everyone's objectives and goals anyways. I think they should have, my only hope is that they have some similar format in regards to what that compliance will be. So that's ultimately what we hope to discuss, or we can discuss now if we have anything nailed down that you have questions about specific to that, or if we want to wait to the 8th and the 16th.
Yeah, let's wait. I think
Okay.
we'll use tonight to come up with
Okay.
the things we want to have discussion about.
All right, sounds good. Ken?
Some other things I'd throw in there that, again, just looking at the boards and also the issues and opportunity report, the downtown as a concept, that just comes up. Everyone's got a different conception of it, what it might be, and it gives, I think, more to that context conversation. It's funny, I see this tug of fewer cars and more cars. Fewer cars, but yet parking for some things, as opposed to creating maybe transportation hubs and other ways that people can move through these spaces. I think there's also this larger conversation about affordability in general, and affordability at both ends, young adults and our elders and seniors as part of that as well as livability seems to be this big concept too, livability, and it rolls right back into the downtown and everything else. And I also saw two other things that crop up here and there, and that is attracting and supporting business locally, being an important piece, whether it be about work, remote work, or new and creative businesses and economies that are here, including not just the life sciences and energy, but also the creative economy in Franklin as well. Seem to be these little themes that are out there.
Kobe?
I wrote down 11 buckets so far, if that's helpful. First being parking, second being density, housing diversity, third being preservation, fourth being circulation, connectivity. I would add transit, really, how do we plan around transit? 5 being solar farms, 6 being historic districts, 7 form-based codes, general character, 8 accessibility, 9 downtown the crossing. I would add villages. Are we thinking about, are there specific other villages that people are planning on recommending? Affordability, livability is number 10, and number 11, attracting businesses and creatives.
So this right here was my concern about getting to draft goals by the 29th, is that it feels like as a group there's a lot we need to talk about. So I'm just throwing that out there, right? Because I think that the most cohesive plan that kind of speaks from the same voice is going to come together, not as disjointed parts that don't seem to be talking to each other, but as something that this group, with the help of everyone in town, has authored together. And I just want to make sure we have the opportunity to do that. That's all.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Kobe?
Yeah, to that point, I think we should be very deliberate going into the next two agendas.
Yes.
Just to make sure that
Yes.
they're efficient.
Yes. In fact,
And effective.
could you do me a favor and put that in an email for me? And send that to Amy, so we have a specific list of agenda items. And also, to add to that list, if there are topics other than what's been brought up tonight, people, please feel free to email Amy and myself, add that to that list so we can get these specific things onto the agenda so that we can bring them up for specific discussions at our next meetings. Was there anything else, Jen, that you had?
Not that I can think of right at this moment. But thank you all for adding on to.
Okay, well, we're still on the subject of, subcommittee questions that are overlapping questions. Do any of the chairs or anyone from the other subcommittees have any kind of overarching questions that they wanna try and have answered tonight, and maybe add to our list that we've already spoken about? Meg, Ken, Eric?
I'm not a chair,
Good.
but hopefully I can have the
Yeah.
floor.
No, absolutely.
And not necessarily a question either, but another item to put into the bucket is decarbonization. And I think that's having a goal on what we want to do and achieve for decarbonization can touch on so many other different objectives as well as actions. And so having one specific on that, I think would be really helpful for us to have a dialogue on.
Great
Excellent.
point.
Gina?
I think we have a great list.
I think we do too. Joe? No?
Nothing to add.
Nothing to add? Rick? Anyone? Awesome. I think we have some marching orders coming up on our next meeting, scheduled for May 8th. We'll be in good shape. Also, by the way, what was I gonna say? If you have any further questions or anything else that you want to add, please feel free to email Amy and myself. We will try to put that on the next agenda, but we also want to be mindful to not put too much on the next agenda. And if we do need another meeting to try to get this information, or if need be, and this is kind of respect Jen's opinion that she said earlier, if need be, if it seems like, and Jill, I'm going to throw this out to you as well, if this seems like that we're not getting an efficient amount of feedback and or goals, objectives, and implementation process kind of done within a reasonable time frame, there is the option, it's been offered to me by the chair of the council, to move out the date for a draft master plan to the planning board as well as the council.
Is that legal?
I'd have to bring it back to the chair and make that adjustment. So if we aren't going to meet our ultimate timeline, we do have the option to move it up. I wouldn't want to move it up too much, but we do have that option. I just wanted to make certain I threw that out to everybody, so that at least we have, some feeling like we're going to have goals, objectives, and a master plan that really has some meat to it, instead of feeling like we're going to be rushed. So please don't feel like that's the case. I don't want anyone to feel rushed on this, but we do want to try and stay within the timeline to the best of our abilities. So my hope is that we can definitely get the goals and objectives compiled into the spreadsheets, so that we can start answering any overarching questions on the 8th. Amy, you had a...
Oh, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, kind of just saying, we developed this timeline, our goal was about an 18-month time frame. It's okay if we go a little
Right.
bit further out, month or two, there's not, but we don't want to go past 2 years, and we're in a little bit of trouble if we do that. But there's not an absolute deadline, but it is to try to get this into place, as,
Right.
when it's appropriate.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll
Yes.
take that as, don't rush, just hurry.
Well, just...
Don't sprint, run.
Just run, right?
It's kind of one of those things, like, it's nice to pick a goal, and ultimately I have the
But don't
ninth.
jog either.
I have September 9th as the presentation to the planning board, and September 18th for the town council. If we need to move that up a month, or even a month and a half, that would be fine. But my only issue I have with this is the fact that as we get closer and closer to November, there are just so many other overlapping things that are going to be going on between the election and other town things, that it's going to be hard. So ultimately, what I wouldn't want to do is go past October. So hopefully we can stay within the projected timeline. But I
Glenn.
don't. Yes, sir.
Considering that we spent 3 or 4 or 5 meetings on a vision statement, I don't hold any hope that you're gonna get done before October.
Well, let's be optimistic. So, all right. Thank you, Bruce. All right. Any other comments, questions in regards to tonight? Everyone, is everyone okay with the dates? First off, that's one thing. Go ahead, Jill.
Thank you, through the chair. I, just one more comment, and just a tool to keep in mind. I don't know, Beta's availability of schedule, but sometimes, and I don't want to take away from the whole group being able to have discussions. It sounds like we have a few things on the calendar, but if ever in any of these sort of more major milestone steps, it would be, or if it may be effective to have a working group, a representative from each of the subcommittees, meet with us in between meetings to try and resolve some, duplication or whatever. Again, just throwing that out there as a possible tool to utilize to help, move along different things. But again, not to take away from the value of the entire group discussion. But if the group was at a good, decent place and there's some ironing out or something to be done, that's just a possibility to keep in mind at any of these kind of next steps.
Okay. Everyone pretty good with that? In other words, reach out to Jill if you have any specific questions. That's really kind of what she's getting at, I assume. But we've covered a lot. We've got a lot done in a short period of time in March. It was a very busy month, and now here we are in April, and we're moving at a fast pace. Please, if anybody has any issues, if you feel like you need extra time, if you feel like you're not quite getting the answers that you're looking for, please reach out to me, reach out to Amy, reach out to Jill, and so we can stay on track for the best of our abilities. But no rush. So, all right. Anything else before I move on to the last and final thing on our agenda, which is to adjourn? Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
This will be a roll call vote.
Bruce,
Non-debatable.
Yes.
Meg,
Yes.
Gino,
Yes.
Rick, Eric,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Melanie, yes, Kobe,
Yes.
Glenn.
Yes. We are
Okay.
adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
11-0.
Recording